Okay, just a couple of things, guys. Starting a minute or two early. As you can see in the background, this is different. I'm actually building out a new studio for myself in Element 115 over here. You can see that I'm wearing a Element 15 115 shirt too. So we're trying to really get in there and get some things done behind the scenes over here at Element 115. Jackie will not be in tonight, but we do have Carter Buschardt here, and he's going to be going into his abduction experiences. He's got 4 books out that he's written, 3 of which are on Bigfoot, and 1 is on his abduction case or his abductions. And we really want to get into that. It sounds like he's got a lot of really similar things that happened with his abductions. And I really want to get into it. I want to listen to what he has to say, and I'm sure you all do. So let's start welcoming everybody in. Once again, this is Lee Strauss, of course, Element 115. We got Miss Wendy in here. We've got Mr. Jingles, who I've never seen before, but welcome, welcome. I'm glad you are here. Randy, welcome. Deidre C, Eternal, welcome. Brown Dwarf, of course. Cosmic Joe is in the house. We got Paula, welcome, welcome, guys. We got Jay, Truth Seeker, welcome, guys. I'm so happy that you all are here, and I am very excited for tonight's show. Let me tell you, I've been waiting all week for this show. Carter has got an experience with abductions, and he didn't realize till later in life that all this was happening to him. And so this is very interesting, very, very interesting that you could go through almost your whole life without realizing that it's going on. So some of you guys might have been abducted too. And we're going to find out how all of that happened. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and get into our intro. And after that, Carter will be in. Hold on 1 second. Well, Carter, I am so glad to have you here tonight. For the past 2 weeks, I have been looking at your page and trying to figure out everything that you have gone through, but I have not gotten a book, and I got to get one because your experience sounds a lot like the things that I've gone through. And I cannot wait to just sit back here and listen to your story because it sounds absolutely phenomenal.
It's bizarre. It's not like I had, ever heard before, or I had no idea that this had happened. I'm 73 now. I
Mhm.
found out 20 years ago, 2002, 22 years ago. But uh, quite by it was all by accident. And
Yeah.
so, I'll tell you the story because it's kind of funny, but I'll keep it brief.
Okay.
My wife and myself and another couple, who was my old comedy partner's wife. My partner passed away, and she remarried, so we got to be friends with her and her new hubby Steve. We were sitting around our house one day, and we decided, I wonder if we ever had past lives. I've always felt like I had a past life. I've always thought I was a woman in a previous life. So everybody decided, let's go. How do we do that? So I literally, you could still use a phone book back then, man, it makes me sound really old, but you could look it up in the phone book, and I found a regressionist that wasn't that far from me. And
Hmm.
so and we become friends now. But we all, this was like a Friday night, we were sitting out there. We drove out Saturday. Well, we were sitting around at our house Friday night. We decided we'd go out there Saturday. So we drove out, and she had a barn, the big barn, and a maze that had been cut into her property, which acreage, about 25, 30 miles east of where I live, in Missouri. Anyway, uh, went and met her. We all sat in the same room. Her barn was her studio. She had hay bales and tables and chairs. You could sit wherever, and we all watched each other go under, and she recorded each and every one of us. We all got our tapes and all that kind of stuff. So, my wife went under. She couldn't go under because hypnosis, some people have control issues, and she's one of those people. I can't let somebody grab my mind. You can't, no thanks. So she couldn't go under. So Steve and Nancy went under. Steve had one life. He found it was pretty cool back in Atlantis. Nancy went under, and she was a medicine woman helping her tribe die because there was no medicine.
Hmm.
And it's kind of funny because in real life, she's a medical practitioner. She's a Reiki uh, uh,
Practitioner.
practitioner, yeah. And so, and her other life was a fisherman in the North Atlantic in the 1920s. So anyway, so it's my turn, and she takes me down, takes me down, takes me down, takes forever to get there, and finally, when I finally go under, I start sobbing
Hmm.
uncontrollably, and I start talking like an 8-year-old boy. Get your hands off of me! What are you doing? I was going bonkers. I was hysterical. I was reliving something, But this is this is supposed to be a past life regression. It wasn't like supposed to be something in the Twilight Zone. And so we happened to have been her probably fifth customer ever. She had just gotten out of she just gotten her hypnotist license and all of that. So here I am going bonkers, crying, sobbing hysterically, and and she's going, "Oh my God, what's going on? What's going on here?" And everybody's looking at me. So finally, when I get out, I come back out from being under. I'm feeling all these tears running down my face, and I suddenly recall, "What's everybody looking at? Was that crying? What?" And they fill me in. I had no idea.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
Yeah.
she tells me she didn't know what to do because we were about her fourth or fifth customer. And
Yeah.
I don't think they train you for an alien abduction as one of your first customers. So it was kind of funny. But, I've done several other shows, and I ran into her, the hypnotist, and we're buddies. I mean, I've known her for since then.
Hmm.
But yeah, she took me under twice. And as we were talking backstage, I've been under 7 times with 4 different women, and each time, whatever I found out from the time before was validated, and then they got more. The next time, Same thing. They validated and they got more. And like I mentioned, I went under twice with Dolores Cannon, and
Yes.
she's a big dog. If nobody on here knows who she is, look her up. She John Mack and Bud Hopkins are the three regressionists. They're the gurus.
That's correct. That's
from
correct.
back when I was growing up. I mean, there's others now, but they were the ones that they were the go-to. And Dolores Cannon, I mean, she was just spectacular, you know. So, but this has been going on since I was 8 or 9.
Yeah.
Started in 1958 or 59, best as I can figure.
Yeah.
Dallas, Texas, and I don't know how much you've learned about, screen memories and things of that nature.
I've learned some.
Yeah.
Because I had some as well. You see one thing and then it turns out to be a totally different thing once it's exposed.
They were so thorough with me. So I'm in Dallas, Texas, 1958, 59, 8 or 9 years old. I'm riding bikes with my buddy Craig. We're racing our bikes. We're racing each other in a hot summer day in Dallas, Texas. That's where I'm from. And we got our new bikes and we're racing. And we were on a stop sign, just being, two stupid kids, on a summer day, just playing around with the bikes. Well, we run a stop sign. This car just blows right by us. Of course, we blew the stop sign, so he didn't have a stop sign. So he wasn't supposed to stop. So he blew by. We could feel the wind. Your shirts are blowing. You feel, God, how did he miss us? And it's right in front of my house. And so I'm looking over there and going, God, I hope my mom didn't see us almost get killed, because she'll kill us if she saw it. So we don't have to worry about the car. She'll kill us ourselves. But she didn't see anything. So, and this is the part that will show you how clever and how vastly superior to us they are right now. The car that almost hit us was a blue Buick Roadmaster.
Yeah.
Now, my grandparents in Houston, Texas, owned a blue 1951 Buick Roadmaster. That's the memory I had. We saw just a black car, but what it was a spacecraft.
Oh.
It was screen memories. I immediately saw the blue Buick.
Yeah.
So I related that to my grandparents. So immediately, any recollection of an abduction, even at 8 or 9, would be gone. If you see something that doesn't fit into the norm, like a gray alien, which I saw plenty of them, you will remember seeing an owl or a deer, something that you can relate to instantly. So as soon as I saw that blue Buick, it turned into a black car. And that's how quick it was. It was just like that. I said, well, that must, so for the next 60 years, let's say, I told this story. You get into a small conversation with people. I was in real estate for about 20 years, and you get into a conversation, well, stupid stuff I did as a kid that should have got me killed, but didn't. So you're always telling a story. You're breaking the ice. You're trying to get a business transaction going. You're just selling to a story. So I always told the story about this, this car that came by and almost ran us over, and should have killed us but didn't. And then somebody else would tell me, well, I stuck my finger in a light socket and got electrocuted, but I made it. I lived, and I was cleaning my dad's gun, and a bullet went off. I thought it was, the bullet whizzed by my ear. That kind of stuff. You tell those stories and just going about your day. So I had no idea. That story was a fallacy. It was the furthest thing from the truth. But
memory is very interesting like that.
They could do that, And so when I found out, I decided, well, I need more. I need to find out what else. So I went under with another woman. and she validated everything the first lady found out. I went back to the first lady the next day. I forgot to mention that. And it was just Sheila and I there this time. And she drug some more stuff out of me. And then I went under, with Dolores Cannon twice down in Arkansas, 2005, 2010, and she died in 2014. A really sweet, sweet lady, and she was just a fireball, and a lot of times, have you ever, if anybody's been regressed, if there be times where you go, am I really saying this? Am I really under? I kept asking her, am I really saying this? Is this really coming out of my mouth? Because I was talking about, going to Saturn, and they were testing me for melding and meshing, which is their word for hybridization at the time. The word they were using was melding and meshing, the two medical, biological, different species together. That's what they were doing. They were testing me. Gotcha. So I don't know if I got any kids out in the universe, I have no idea.
You probably do.
I could.
Several dozen.
But they tested me. They tested me for all of that stuff. And my buddy Craig. Now, here's the weird part. This is almost more important to me than anything else. And this is how I know this actually happened, although I've been regressed. I have all the cassette tapes, by the way. I have everything on tape. It's not like someone's typing, or it's recorded. You can hear me, and it's bizarre. So, but the guy I was with, Craig, I went to school with him. Mm-hmm. He lived 2 blocks over from me. We hung out a lot. We one 4th of July set off some fireworks behind his parents' garage, and the wind blew them back down, burned half their garage down. So I was grounded. I was never allowed to see him again because I was a bad influence. My parents told me, you're not allowed to see him because he's a bad influence. So we never saw each other again. But, my one key to this was finding him, because he's the guy that was with me. So I went under and I decided I was going to go online. So I went online and I found 7 Craig, I won't say his last name, but 7 people with the exact name, Craig Smith. We'll call Smith. They all had the same names, different ages, different places around the country, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, I found one. It matched. And here's why it matched. He had the same birthday as I did, September 16th, 1951. If you're going to do experiments on subjects, lab rats, humans, what better way to gauge your experiments and your testing and your results to have 2 human subjects that are exact same age, same height, same build, same everything. Here's what's even weirder. I had another buddy, Gordon. I won't use his last name. He lived a block the other direction from where I lived. He and I spent days and weeks and months and years together. We were in Boy Scouts. We hunted, we fished. We were together all the time. And, his birthday was September 16th, 1951. What are the odds? And I'm getting the chills when I'm just talking about this because I know I'm hitting the nail on the head. What better way to run an experiment than to have 3 test subjects, guinea pigs, cows, dogs, monkeys, same age, same height, weight, same everything. What happens to one might happen to all 3, or might not happen to the other 2, and why? So you've got a great, test group. So I found a phone number for Craig. He's living out in California now. I said, Craig, hey, this is Carter Buschardt. I don't know if you remember me. Who? Carter Buschardt. We went to school together in Dallas, Texas in the 60s and 70s. No, I don't know any Carter. I went to school in Richardson, Texas. Oh, but he was from Texas. Now he's living in California. So I said, well, we did go to school together and we hung out together. and we burned down your parents' garage. Remember that? No.
Oh,
Screen memory. He doesn't remember. He denied everything. He said, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know a car. I didn't go to school in Dallas, Texas. I went to school in Richardson, Texas, which literally is about 25, 30 miles north of Dallas. And he could have gone to school there after he was taken out of school by his parents. So then I asked him another question. I said, now this conversation, he doesn't know me. I'm this nut calling him saying, hey, were you abducted with me by aliens back in our childhood days? He's just talking to me like, oh, well, this is interesting. You know, it was just like, but he said, no, I don't know what you're talking about. So then I said, let me ask you something. Have you ever been hypnotized? And he said, well, actually, yeah, a couple of times. I'm not sure I believe in the science, but yeah, I have been. But I said, well, why did you get hypnotized? He goes, oh, just on a lark, just to see what it was like. I mean, I didn't have a reason. I said, so after 20-minute conversation, it says, well, I tell you what, I'm going to send you an email. I know you don't use your Facebook because you haven't been on there in 2 years, because I looked you up today. You haven't posted anything in 2 years. So I'm going to send you a link. If you want to get a hold of me, go ahead. So he denied everything.
yeah.
And it could be that he has not taken the path that I did and found out, had doubts, accidentally or otherwise found out by hypnosis. Why did he get hypnotized just on a lark? You know, there's some things that were just like, buddy, you're full of crap. I think you probably don't remember this.
Yeah.
I got his interest, but he didn't like hang up and say, hey, buddy, you're nuts. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, he could have hung up. He sat there and talked to me for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So something had him going along with it. You know, he was like, well, this is kind of a nut job. I don't know who he is, but what the heck? I never talked to a crazy man before. I'll talk to him, see what he has to say. You know, so that was that. And so he's denied it. He was with me. I know he was. And we were taken from in front of my house. I was taken. I had a paper route in the morning. I was taken during my paper route out of my house. I had this reoccurring dream. I don't know if you ever had this, but I had the reoccurring dream. I slept in a bunk bed at my parents' house in Dallas, Texas. I was on the top bunk. My brother shared it was kind of a small bedroom. It was a brand new house. It was a small bedroom. And so I would wake up and I would see these little gray robots going down. It looked like they were going down an escalator or stairs. They started off here and it just kind of, they were in my hall. I was looking at them. I was kind of looking down at them from my top of my bunk bed. I was watching them, and I always wondered, what is that? What is that? Then I go back to sleep and I think you think of it. Well, one night I didn't go back to sleep, and they came in and they took me, and you know, I knew they took me. You know,
right.
I could do nothing about it. And yet again, another screen memory. I always had this memory. I thought it was a dream, just like the little robots, of Aunt Jemima sitting in a rocking chair in my bedroom. Well, my bedroom wasn't big enough for a rocking chair or Aunt Jemima, but it was a rocking chair. And there would be this woman sitting there. I thought it was Aunt Jemima because that's what my head was telling me. And I would sit up, and this being would sit up in the rocking chair and lean forward. I'd lay back down, like, okay, I'm not seeing this. I'm going to lay back down and wake up 5 minutes from now, see if I still see it. I lay back down. She would lay down. She'd go all the way back in the chair. I'd wake up again and she would, I mean, it was just a ridiculous thing. But this Aunt Jemima didn't have a do-rag. It was my grandmother is who it was. I was made to think it was Aunt Jemima, and that's what I thought until the second or third time I got hypnotized, I went, that's not Aunt Jemima. That looks like my grandmother. So they took memories of my grandparents' car, and I never saw them drive the car. They were too old to drive by the time I was old enough and met them. They were too old to drive, so that car just sat there. And so the Aunt Jemima was a screen memory for the tall gray. So the little robot drone grays, the little 2-footers, are the little robots that they build to do their chores because they're built in their image, you know. But there are these 6-foot tall grays, a regular human height. And Aunt Jemima, my grandmother, was a screen memory to deflect the vision of the gray.
Yeah.
Just bizarre. God, I had something. It was, but the things they could do to make you get confused, you know, they took me under, and I was talking to the ETs, and you know, they were talking to me just like what they kept saying to me was, you weren't supposed to remember. You weren't supposed to remember. I said, well, your screen memories or whatever you put in my head quit working a long time ago. I've known this stuff. And, you know, and they would, and when I was having conversations with these ETs, I don't know if anybody's, did your session involve speaking with ETs?
Yeah. And it wasn't speech. It was a whole nother level.
It was just injection into your, yeah.
I mean, it was like you could sense their 5 senses. It's like it was sight, and it was smell, and it was touch, and it was all that information at one time from them.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot.
Yeah. And so the weird part is that, you know, they had me. One of the times I was in a pod, an embryo.
Mm-hmm.
I was standing up and I was kind of squinched in. It was like I was in a giant banana, but it was an embryo. It was a skin. I could feel the skin. It was clear. I could see out of it, but it was very strong and held me. And when they were messing with my buddy, he was screaming bloody murder. And I was going, oh, dirty word. I'm next. I don't want to be in. Get me out of here. And I started screaming and yelling. I was banging. I was trying to get out of there. Wow. I'm an 8, 9-year-old kid, you know, so I don't know, you know, I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but it doesn't sound good, whatever it is, because Craig's in there screaming his bloody mind out. He's just, you know, so I scream and yell. I said, get me out of here. And I was scratching and clawing. I just couldn't grit it. So the alien comes out and takes a red laser and just cuts the thing right down, and I fall out on the floor. So I'm out. So I said, I don't want to go in there, you know. And then, you know, I don't recall on that one if I did, but they took us from front of my house, from my paper route. They took us when we were fishing and hunting together, and we used to hang out at this place, Joe's Creek. They took us many times. A lot of times they would take us, we would be fishing, and we'd look up and see a craft or a beam up in the tree. And it was like, oh, here we go again. You know, I mean, but I didn't know it at the time, you know. Now, another screen memory, when they were doing these procedures on him and they were doing things to his neck, and I know they did them to mine too, was they gave me a screen memory of me casting a fishing line and hooking Craig in the neck. And it was like I was pulling his skin. I had this hook, and I just going, come on, get out of there. Come on, what's the deal? I didn't even look around to see. I never, ever hooked him with a fish hook. Ever. I would have remembered that. He was screaming bloody murder. They gave me the memory of me hooking him with a fish hook to replace the memory of what they were doing to him, like doing procedures in his neck.
Oh, Wow. Procedures in his neck, you say?
Yeah. Well, see, from where I could see from that pod I was in, or the embryo, either
Yeah.
one, it's like a bean pod, sleeping bag. There was this kind of a white sheet. It was a wall, but I could see through it,
Yeah.
and I could
Kind
see
of.
what they were doing to him. And he was in a bed, and I was in a bed. He was strapped down. I was strapped down. I'm going, oh God, I don't want to do this. No, 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 no. So, but I watched them do that stuff to him, and then they would take me in and do the same thing to me. And so the term they used for hybridization was melding and meshing of the two different DNA types.
I got you.
And it was, to not know it, I was taken to Saturn. I was taken to the rings of Saturn, Machu Picchu. There are tunnels and a giant room underneath all those buildings in Machu Picchu, and I went down these tunnels, and they were stone tunnels underneath Machu Picchu, and you run your hands along the walls. There's moss, and as you get around this corner, you turn a corner, you kind of have to hang on a little bit, and it's all brown oil from all the humans that have touched it over the thousands of years that people have been walking through this tunnel. But there's unless this was another screen memory, there's stuff underneath Machu Picchu.
Yeah. Well, I don't doubt that at all. I mean, you just look
No,
at the structure.
I don't either. I just can't physically remember any of it. They took me to Saturn. They took me to the rings of Saturn.
Yeah.
And they were going to leave me there. And I said, I don't want to stay here. Well, there's old souls here. We think you should learn about your past from some of the old souls here. I said, no, I don't want to go. I don't want to be here with the old people. I don't want to be here. I mean, that's what I said. I remember saying this. I don't want to be here.
Yeah, yeah.
And so they took me back. They brought me back. But I remember seeing all the debris. I saw chunks of rock and just weird, like little odd shaped, like pieces of space debris, like, other aliens craft or little satellites, or I saw a lot of debris in these things. They were just kind of going by me it's like they're on a fast escalator, just kind of going by me. I was just kind of looking at all this stuff. God damn, gee, God, look at all this stuff here. Oh, this stuff's really hanging around out there. Okay. I said, so that's it. And, 20 years later, after I get regressed, I'm finally dealing with it, and I write the book.
Yeah.
And this stuff, like I was telling you, I found out in 2002 or 2003, the stuff sat in my closet with my Sasquatch DNA kits and everything for 20 years. I sit here at my desk and stared at it every day, and I didn't do a darn thing with it. And I'm pretty sure I was afraid or spooked, and knowingly talking to myself, Carter, you're not afraid. You're a man. You're not afraid. You're just, nervous. Well, I was probably scared. I mean, I didn't know what was in it, but I knew at the same time, I understand everything they showed me, and I understand. It's like, that's why I'm odd. That's why I got into Sasquatch research, perhaps, which they verified on my last regression. Yes, yeah. Where he's doing his work, and I mean, they know, they're watching. If they've abducted 6 million people, which is a round number that they estimate since the 50s, well, that means there's 6 million people running around with half a memory and half a not, or maybe no memory at all,
Right.
But it was just, why me? Then I figured, why not me? I mean, it explained a lot of things. I had implants. One of them failed. Right. And so they had to replace it. I had an incredibly volcanic nosebleed one day out in the front yard. I was about 13. My mom was out there. And I was like, just blood just starts shooting out of my nose. And I was reaching in there trying to pull out this booger, which I thought it looked like a blood vessel. It was about a foot long. It was just
Wow.
kind of dangling there, just hanging, and I just threw it on the ground. I had no idea. Still at that time, I had no idea. I just figured, well, I got this weird nosebleed. That's just bizarre. And so, but they came and got me and put another one in.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Did you ever have any of the ear bleeds?
No, it was all
No.
strictly to the nose, left
Yeah.
nostril.
Yeah. For me, it's been both a ear and nose bleeds. So wake up and I'll have blood on the pillow or that sort of thing. But it sounds like a very similar situation where you've got these screened memories, and you look back at that stuff and right on the face of it, it's just like, it's just whatever it is. But then you start thinking about it, I'm like, well, that is a little odd. What did happen there? And for you and the fact that you've been able to have regression and look back at those times, and now it makes so much more sense. Did you happen to go through a situation once you realized that this was happening to you? Did you go through any deep depression?
No.
No.
And a buddy of mine, they're discussing making a film out of my event. Don't know if that's ever going to happen, but nice to be considered. But he was an abductee.
Yeah.
And so he had been through that. And but what was your question? I'm sorry, I started.
Yeah. Did you go through any depression once
Oh,
you found out?
no. But what he pointed out was, I think you've got PTSD.
Mhm.
Because we filmed a prequel to what might be a film on my event here at my house, July of this year. And it was pretty cool. I mean, it was exhilarating, and we had some actors come in and play different parts and stuff like that. But when I was here at the house, we had a woman playing a hypnotist, and she was sitting in the chair, and we had to stop and redirect some of the questioning and angles we were doing. So we said, let's stop, and we rehearsed another scene, and then we started filming the scene. And as soon as she took me to a certain spot in the conversation, which was a key word, just to go down a different path, I suddenly became like I was at the first hypnosis. I was freaking out here in the living room. The cameras are rolling. My wife, Ed's there, Trey, all these people, and I start flailing at the alien, when I, and this was for another scene, but I started flailing and I went out. I was back like it was happening. I was freaking out. I was crying. I was on the floor. I was laying on the couch. I was playing the classical. I'm laying back on the sofa with a pillow, and she's in the chair next to me with a notepad, doing all that stuff. Just okay. And then it just snapped. I was suddenly back at that first regression, and I was crying, and I was like, get away from me, just get away, stay away, don't touch me, I saw them there. Of course there's nobody there. There's Ed, the camera, Tracy, a chair, and me on a sofa, and another lighting guy, and that was it. But I was suddenly I was there. Like I was going through that first discovery all over again. And we had to stop because I was crying again. I was like, and he said, now Ed is a filmmaker, but he's also a former paratrooper and soldier, airborne, all that. He was a badass. And he has PTSD from his military stuff, seeing people blown up and shot and all that kind. And so he said, "You got PTSD." I just thought I'd tell you.
Yeah.
Me? No, I'm perfect. No, no, no. You got PTSD. You have no control when you're faced with the dilemma or event. You're slipping right back. He said, "I do this all the time with my military. I see or hear something that reminds me of the smells of Afghan and Iran and all that, the Afghan war." And he says, "I go right back, but I know how to get myself out." And I said, I kind of like having that because I'm not trying to run from it anymore. I want to know more. I'm past the point of being freaked out. And if for a film, if I can get myself to that, I'll take my Academy Award now. Thank you very much.
There you go.
I was like, I was back at my 43, 53-year-old self or my 80-year-old self when this shit first happened. Excuse my French.
Yeah.
And so it was just, that told me right there that this all, if I had any doubts or I'm trying to tell myself this didn't happen, I can't. I can't, because it did happen, And so I took all my cassettes, and this one thing they told me that I didn't do, and I'm a dumbass for doing it. Each regressionist told me you should go home and listen to these tapes as many times as you can, because you're going to get something every time. And I don't know how far behind I put myself by sticking them in my closet and not listening to them for 20 years. I mean, I did nothing because I thought, well, I'll handle it when I get done with my Sasquatch research or whatever it is I think I'm got to be doing. So I didn't do anything with it. And I regret that because even just listening to these tapes, because I transposed them, I transcripted them from a cassette tape into a Word format and then into the book. So, I mean, I just took them and converted it into a Word document. I typed it as I was going and, made a book out of it,
Right.
A little more difficult than it sounds, but it was simple, in essence. So I just went through everything and it typed it all out and it all came out. And as I was reading and seeing some of this again for the first time in 20 years, I was going, I don't remember that. What? I was like, it's my own fault for sitting on it.
Yeah.
And I asked, the last regressionist gave me 10 questions. You have 10 questions you can ask during your regression. None of the others did that, but I was just blurting stuff out anyway. Say, hey, you see that raccoon, squirrel? I was freaking out. So, but I don't know. It's just it all came out. It's all in me, and there's still things I want to know. Now, the lady said, you got 10 questions, and I said, have I been taken in the last 5 years? And I said, never mind. Have I been taken in the last 10 years? Because since I've been doing my Sasquatch research since 2019, when I made contact with a clan, and I have had mental, telepathic images, conversations with them, and all that. I'm trying to think how I want to put this, but she told me, yes, they have visited you in the last 10 years at your house. This is how I know that this is all the real deal, because since 2019, when I made a connection with this clan. We've had all kinds of bizarre stuff going on at our house. And I've made this 4-page document. It's a Word document. It's called Strangeness in Our Home, all the weird stuff that goes on. Because my wife and I are experiencing all kinds of weird stuff all the time. Some of it's Squatch related. Some of it is otherworldly, I would imagine. So anyway, I mean, my mouth's dry.
Oh,
yeah. Cheers.
yep, cheers.
So I wake up about 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. This was 2022, I think. And I feel these hands and fingers reaching under my butt, under the back of my thighs, and under my knees. They're slowly working their way under me, and they're lifting me off the bed. And I'm going off the right side of the bed. I'm going, what's going on? What's going on? And then Sheila gets up and she's going to the bathroom. Well, she gets up and walks across the room. I said, hey, do you see what's going on? What are they doing? What's going on? Do you see what this is? What's going on here? She just walked like she didn't hear me. You know,
Wow.
The room was lit up. Our bedroom was lit up. I mean, it was bright. It was like I was looking through a dirty windshield. You know how the edges are smudged like right around here, but it was clear in the middle, and I was watching her and they kept getting me closer to the edge. I'm going, I didn't put it together when it was happening. I thought it was the Sasquatch people, and it could have been. But when I'm almost to the edge of the bed and she flushes the toilet, when she flushes the toilet, they drop me. It's like it scared them or spooked them. They dropped me. And I'm still on the bed. I'm not off the edge yet. And she comes back in. I'm so, did you just say, did you not hear me? She goes, what are you talking about? No, I told her what I thought. And she goes, you're just lucid dreaming. There's nothing there. There's nothing there. I didn't see anything. There's nothing going on. You're okay.
Oh, yeah.
That was them taking me, or attempting to take me, or just to do something to me.
Yeah.
She told me that much. So it's still ongoing. I don't know what they want with this old Sasquatch guy, although I am good looking,
Yeah, you're damn good looking.
I'd make a great little hybrid baby.
I love that hat too, by the way.
I knew you would. That's how I wore it just for you.
Yeah.
But so that's the gist of it. I mean, there's all kinds of things, many, many times when I'm talking to the aliens, how my ladies did it one of two ways was I'm talking, you're talking to your super subconscious. That's what everybody is. If you're hypnotized, you're talking to your super subconscious, the subconscious that knows everything about you, everything you ever did, good, bad, or indifferent, your entire life.
Yep.
Mass murderer to a pope, doesn't matter. They know everything about you. So I'm talking to them back and forth, and they're telling me certain things, and I'm asking them questions, and they're always evasive, and they got a pretty wicked sense of humor, kind of like me. But I'd ask them a question, and they would say, you were not supposed to remember that. How did you remember that? You were not supposed to remember that. Or they would say something like, well, if you think it's true, it probably is.
Uh-huh.
They would never say yes.
Uh-huh.
They would never, but without giving me the answer, they gave me the answer because they would say, well, you weren't supposed to remember that, which means I caught them,
Right.
And some of the things with the, nosebleeds and the implants and the just flat out abductions and what they did, but, and the faces, they kept giving me faces. They said, you could not handle the way we look. We're going to give you different images. You remember the show Outer Limits?
Oh, yeah.
David McCollum from Man from U.N.C.L.E.
I mean,
He played that big alien with a great big giant head.
Yeah.
That was one of the aliens I saw. And another one, which I know they were just messing with me. Look, it was a spitting image of Salvador Dali.
They're just taking
mustache and all of it. And they're just jacking with you, because they're throwing things out there. They're still trying to dissuade me from validating what I saw or thought I saw by telling me, well, yeah, you might have seen that. If you think you saw it, maybe you did, maybe you didn't. You weren't supposed to remember that. They kept. So I was in the ballpark. I always knew. So Salvador Dali was one, but it kind of it had more like that face of the Antifa. That white face, the mustache, that mask. It was sort of like that. But they told me I wasn't supposed to remember any of this. And that's why I think that guy that I was taking with Craig doesn't.
Yeah.
Because for whatever reason, his parents moved him away from, if that really happened. Because we were not allowed, even though we lived in the same neighborhood, we were not allowed to play with each other ever again by either set of parents.
Yeah.
So I get it. But anyway, it was just, there were so many times that I look over my shoulder and I think there's something there. I play a lot of poker, and the poker room I play in, people walk by the back, but just employees. Well, I'm always feeling somebody standing back there. I look and there's nobody there. I know there's somebody there, but there isn't anybody physically there. So it's just been a weird baptism. It's just like it hit me out of nowhere. I got no idea, and I want to do something with it, but I don't know what to do. I want to spend another thousands and thousands of dollars getting hypnotized, only to kind of find out things that I probably already kind of know just from being in the cryptid investigation and paranormal world. You kind of know certain things that are likely to happen. And so I expect certain things to happen, and I'm not shocked when they do. I'm not shocked if they don't, So,
right.
I mean, just, you have any lingering desire to go find out what happened?
Oh yeah, constantly. That's why I go out, whenever I can with my camera gear and go right into the mouth of the danger, basically.
Yeah.
I want to know more. I mean, I'm not done knowing.
The Sasquatch thing, I mean, I'm at peace with. I've written 4 books. The last one that just released is Sasquatch Habituation. So I've written 4 Sasquatch books, and this one here. But it's just like I'm not saying I'm done, but I was put here to do the habituation thing. I mean, that's where I've met all these families that have all these Sasquatch interactions. They're living on their property, so they're habituations. And I've had a guy up in England, New England area, 6 hours of missing time from seeing a Sasquatch. 6 hours. And several of my witnesses, they'll see UFOs right before or right after a Sasquatch event, or they'll see a Sasquatch right after or right before a UFO event. They have craft flying over their property.
That's becoming more and more common too. Having both phenomena in the same area. I've heard quite a few stories like that.
Yeah, the guy up in New England, he's a computer whiz. He's got a huge business. After the book, he contacted me after he saw me on a podcast, and he said, "I want to tell you my story, but I don't want to be contacted or anything after that." I didn't. I haven't bothered him. I sent him a book, and that's it. But 6 hours.
Yeah.
And he was rebuilding a cabin up in the New England area somewhere, and he was the construction supervisor when he got home from running his business, which was a very successful computer business. And his wife had moved out of the house while they were remodeling the house because She was pregnant. They already had a baby. And they had a 2-bedroom cabin, so they were doubling the size of the cabin. So he moved her out to her parents' house, which is 20 miles away, and he would come home and put in another 6-8 hours being a subcontractor, running the crews and make sure they're all doing whatever. Well, one night he's got this 125-pound German Shepherd guard dog, military trained. He spent thousands on this dog.
Yeah.
He sees a Sasquatch walking at him one night, and the dog does nothing. It's trained attack, kill. Get him! And they end up running to this trailer hitch, a trailer that he carries, has on the property to stay in while he's doing the house.
Yeah.
He's holding a knife by the door, waiting for the Sasquatch to come in. It's walking around the house, banging on the house. And the dog is leaning next to him. They barricade themselves in the bathroom, and it's about 11 o'clock at night. He's holding his knife out, got his feet against the door. The dog is leaning right up and against him. Next thing he knows, it's 5:30 in the morning. He wakes up fully refreshed. He's had his arms out like this with a knife for 6 hours. So he thinks. Wakes up, sun's coming up. Trucks are coming in, guys are walking around. His wife's going to be here in a minute, cook breakfast for the crew like she does every day. And he just gets up and walks out like nothing happened. He didn't tell her for 3-4 months.
Wow. So did he wake up in the same place where he fell asleep in the bathroom?
Exactly the same place. Exactly. He locked himself in the bathroom, barricaded the door. The door in a little trailer, a 30-foot travel trailer, is about this, 4x4, maybe, 3x3. He's in there with his dog, feet up against the door, so it can't come in. His back's against the bathtub, and his foot is against the door. Here we go.
Yeah.
He wakes up 7 hours later, missing time.
The dog didn't want anything to do with the Sasquatch at all.
The dog was turned off, just like they did with my parents when the Grays were coming. What I was going to say, the Grays were coming from my parents' bedroom. I think they were shutting them off. So whatever they were going to do to me, they could do with being unencumbered with interference. So the dogs do not sleep sitting up. By the way,
right?
This dog was out, and they were both in the same position they were at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night when they locked themselves in there.
Yeah.
So there's something going on in Denmark. I know we're getting close to your time here, so I'll just leave it for questions or follow up.
Yeah. If anybody has any questions, please ask. We've got like 4 minutes left, which isn't a lot of time, but I've enjoyed your story so far. Oh my gosh.
Well, some of it may remind you of yours.
Oh, it does. In fact, I want to interrupt all the time. I have to keep, banging myself on the leg. Don't interrupt. Don't interrupt.
Well, and the one thing I asked that they would not answer was, so did humans get traded for equipment, for technology?
For tech.
And they would not. There was silence. That was the only question. I believe that because I've read enough about it. Like I said, Laura Eisenhower lives down the road here. So, I mean, and everybody thinks she's nuts because she knew all about that. She's got some of her dad's papers. She knew all about that stuff. But
okay, so one thing I want you to get to talk about is where people can find you and where they can get your books, because we need to do that. And I need to thank you very much for coming on our show. And I really appreciate it.
Well, you can find me because the aliens found me. So if you're going to find me, it's pretty easy because they found me. You can go to my webpage, sqexplorer.com. And or my email is sqexplorer@gmail.com. And the show tonight is about Baptized by Abduction. I've got 4 Sasquatch books. They're all the books are full color. This one's not. This is just black and white. There's no pictures in it. But all my Sasquatch books are full color. I autograph them. They're on nice shiny paper. They're not little cheap paperbacks. Nothing wrong with paperbacks, but I don't like that pulp paper, you know. So if you email me, I respond. If you message me, I respond. I'm very communicative. So, that's how you can find me. But
Okay. And where would they get your books?
world,
Where would they get your books?
well, they just, if you want to email me at
Okay.
sqexplorer@gmail.com. I'm doing a special now on my books. So I don't have that on my webpage. So you can just go to sqexplorer@gmail.com. That's my email. And
Right.
email me. And if you want the Sasquatch books, they're very good books. I mean, they're.
All right. We got to cut it short, buddy. I really thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. And we'll talk to you later. Thank you very much, sir.